Top 10 Worst Episodes of Family Guy. The 2,000-Year-Old Virgin. Released in Season 13. The 2,000-Year-Old Virgin is a Family Guy episode focusing on Jesus. He was hanging out in Quahog, claiming he wanted to lose his virginity. Jesus offers Peter a massage chair if he allows him to lose his virginity to Lois. The problem is that it turns out Jesus lied about being a virgin and does this every year. As expected, any episode mocking Jesus, especially one that takes this angle, will find a lot of people blasting it. The 2,000-Year-Old Virgin ended up as the 10th lowest ranked episode in Family Guy history. To their credit, the producers said before the season started that they had an episode they knew would cause a negative backlash. Stewie is on sand. Seth MacFarlane was on a tear in season 13. Just 6 episodes after offending Christians with his portrayal of Jesus, he created an episode that was equally hated. The plot of Stewie is on sand was simple. Brian doesn't want to hang out with Stewie anymore, so Stewie uses the dog's DNA to impregnate himself to try to force him back. There was a subplot with Peter trying to make a viral video, but it was just there to give small breaks to Stewie and Brian's story. The episode was going for shock value, but there was little humor in it, leaving many feeling uncomfortable. Without the laughs, it just fell flat. Send in Stewie please. Sometimes a poorly rated episode for fans has the opposite reaction by critics. When it comes to viewers, Send in Stewie please from season 16 was the 8th worst rated episode of Family Guy ever. However, this episode received a Writers Guild of America award for outstanding writing in animation. So what made this so polarizing? The episode was not a typical Family Guy episode. It lasted for 28 minutes, with no commercials and no cutaway jokes, like fans have grown to expect. There is also no one from the Griffin family other than Stewie until Brian shows up at the end. Stewie goes to see a therapist, voiced by Ian McKellen, and while some thought it was fascinating, others hated every second of it. Vestige Peter. Season 12 has more hated episodes than any other season of Family Guy, with 4 ranked as the 7 worst on IMDb. It all started with the second episode of the season, Vestige Peter. The episode has Peter notice a lump on his neck. It turns out to be his vestigial twin Chip, who develops a winning personality and wins over Peter's family. What likely turned off most people voting this episode down were the never-ending jokes themselves. There was one transphobic joke that turned a lot of people off and at least 3 homophobic jokes that did the same. These jokes are built into Family Guy on the whole, but they were overwhelming in this episode, hurting the episode's popularity in a ranking system like IMDb. Herpe, the Love Saw. The second of 4 episodes from season 12 of Family Guy on this list, Herpe, the Love Saw, is a Stewie and Brian centric episode. While these are usually the best episodes of the series, this one seemed to take viewers aback, and they voted it one of their least liked episodes of the series to date. In this episode, Stewie and Brian decided to become blood brothers, but there was one problem. Brian was embarrassed to tell Stewie that he had herpes until after the fact and gave it to Stewie. Overall, the episode was lackluster in terms of jokes. Honestly, the downvoting likely came from fans who didn't like how the show treated Brian this season. Canaris. This 17th season episode of Family Guy has the main story being Stewie and Brian trying to run a con on a widowed very wealthy heiress. They then learn Quagmire is doing the same thing. Meanwhile, Peter shows Chris how to mow lawns and attracts the attention of Herpe. The biggest complaints in this episode came from the running jokes. The one thing people seem to hate the most is the long name gag. This gag sees them spend almost 2 minutes saying one name and then repeating the joke 4 times in the episode. That is 8 minutes of a 20+ minute episode on one gag. There are also long song and dance numbers that seemed like filler as well. Trump Guy. If any television comedy wants to guarantee low rankings on fan-voted polls, have that show make fun of President Donald Trump. On the 17th season episode of Family Guy, the show did exactly that. The episode was named Trump Guy for good measure. Peter takes a job working for President Trump in Washington, D.C., and things go well at first. However, after Trump molests Meg twice, the Griffin family turns on him, but Trump blasts Peter for being a bad role model. In the end, the episode asks all Americans to read the Steele dossier, and the political nature ensured this episode would receive a low rating from fans of the current president. Fresh Air. What made Fresh Air so polarizing for fans was the disturbing content that took place in the episode. The episode starts with Carter breaking his leg, and the only member of the Griffin family who will stay with him and help him is Chris. The two hit it off so well. Chris teaches Carter masturbation through a hand job, that Chris becomes the sole heir of Carter's estate. This revelation causes Peter to want to spend time with his son, after neglecting him from most of his life. Peter tricks Lois into divorcing him so he can marry Chris for his future inheritance. Most of the fan complaints are due to the incest jokes in the episode. Some things fans claim drove them away from Family Guy. Life of Brian. It is no surprise that one of the most hated episodes of Family Guy in history was the one where Brian died. Fans rioted after this episode. When the series producers claimed Brian was dead for good, fans started petitioning and rejected his replacement, Vinny. The episode was heart-wrenching with the beloved character dying, but many fans hated every minute of it. Seth MacFarlane said he was surprised at the fans' reaction to the loss of a cartoon family's pet. However, he said it proved Brian was a great character. Brian returned 2 episodes later. You Can't Handle the Booth. While Life of Brian was the show that made a ton of fans threaten to boycott Family Guy, it was not the most hated episode based on IMDb voters. Instead, the only episode to not even hit a 4 out of 10 rating was the 17th season episode You Can't Handle the Booth. This episode had the Griffin family record a DVD commentary track for a fictional episode of Family Guy. The Griffins even meet the people who voiced them. In the commentary, Lois claims Peter used to be married to Sarah Paulson, and Chris might be Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. The episode received 99 reviews on IMDb, most negative with viewers calling it boring as the commentary playing out over the episode. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn on the bell so you don't miss a video.